Good evening. This is Talk with the Mayor, Talk with America's Mayor. And what you're listening to is the overture, one of my favorite overtures, from Verdi's La Forza del Destino. There we are. Take a look at it. There we are. Beautiful, haunting piece of music, isn't it? The beginning of a great opera and the beginning of a long opera. One of Verdi's longest. A story I'll tell you someday, if you're interested. La Forza del Destino, translated, I would imagine you could even figure that out no matter what, if you knew Italian or not. The force of destiny. La Forza del Destino. Sounds somewhat nicer in Italian, doesn't it? La Forza del Destino. The force of destiny. Not too artistic.
That's the beginning? That's the first song?
That's the overture to the opera. Verdi didn't write overtures to every opera. Sometimes he wrote preludes, which were much shorter, like Traviata, Rigoletto. All have preludes. La Forza del Destino was probably his most famous overture. So, last night was China balloon over Washington. It wasn't there, but its spirit was there, hanging right over the bought and purchased president. There he was with Z, right on the top of the balloon up there, going like this. Every move. Oh, yeah. Nothing too tough on China, huh? They just ended up basically photographically raping us. And his response was, what do you say about China? Here's watch. Words like this. Z's up there, and he's a puppet, right? Z pushes this way, Z pushes that way.
Of course, the president said the United States is committed to working with China, but he affirmed that the United States will act to protect its sovereignty if threatened. I don't know if that's what we saw with the balloon situation.
Isn't this just emblematic of the whole speech? A total lie. Here was the statement. As we made clear last week. I sound too authoritative for that mushy little moron. Made clear last week. If China threatens our sovereignty, he would have a hard time with that one. We will act to protect our country. And we did? Yeah. After they photographed the whole country, Joe, how'd you protect us? When it was headed, I'm having a hard time now. A hard time with the following possibilities. They're profoundly stupid. You're corrupt. That's about it. So why would you think you protected us? How could you even say that? That sentence doesn't withstand analysis. If you protected us, you would have prevented them from getting what they wanted, correct? So what did you protect us against? They started all the way off at the Aleutians. They went right across Alaska. They came through communist Canada. And then they came over the border in Montana. Then they came straight across the United States, completely unimpeded. I don't know, did you help them with searchlights and stuff so they got better pictures? Wouldn't be surprised. And then you shot them down after they left the United States. Did you protect us against offshore pictures? Exactly what did you protect us against? we will act to protect our country. And the right answer, we did not protect our country, did we? If there was anything to protect us against, you didn't, because the pictures were all gone by then. They were all taken. The damage was all done. The intelligence had all been gathered. I don't know. Can I put it any other way? I mean, I know your mind is shot, but gosh, I think I could get this across at a nursing home. You didn't protect us. This is as insane and stupid as withdrawing troops before our citizens and the people who helped us, who are civilians, in a country surrounded by terrorists that wants to kill them and not expected they're going to be killed. You did that and got people killed, didn't you? Now, did that happen because you're profoundly stupid? You're mentally ill in the sense that you have dementia, or you're a communist, I don't know, or just an evil jerk. There is still, despite your ability to deal with a crooked, censored press, there's still something we're left with that we were given by God and we perfected in something called, might not be familiar with Western civilization. It's called logic. Probably before the Greeks, but I think it was first written down by the Greeks. So this is logical, right? Right? If unless that balloon was just a vacation for a bunch of Chinese scientists, the Chinese didn't spend all that money on that balloon like for nothing. So we have to assume, because we assume the Chinese, unlike you, are reasonably intelligent, not senile and demented, and actually think about their own interests. We haven't bought them off to think about us like they've bought you off. So the Chinese sent that balloon over for a purpose. And you can be sure the purpose was to hurt the United States, because they want to supplant us by 2048. We're getting somewhere now, right? So for you to say this sentence that you protected them, logically protected us, you would have to have stopped them before they achieved their purpose, right? Like take them down when they were 100 miles off the Aleutian Islands, when our military knew about it, but we don't know whether you knew about it because you're hiding it from us. In fact, we know you knew about it, I believe it was on the 1st. We don't know if you knew about it on the 28th. So did you know about it, Joe? When you didn't know about it, you said you wanted to shoot it down. But the military told you that it would be too dangerous. Now, this could be a question of your being too stupid. It's empty land is between Canada and the middle of America. Like Montana, there's 7 people for every single mile. 7 people for every single mile. I think with 7 people for every single mile, for me to take that down and not hurt anybody. If we can't do that, you need a new military. Possibly you need a new military for other reasons too, that you didn't share with us in your deceptive, fraudulent State of the Union speech, which the whole theory of it, State of the Union speech last night, when you failed to mention to us 2 very salient facts that we should know about the state of our union in comparison to China, which you hardly talked about, except for this ridiculously illogical statement. You never told us that China now has a bigger Navy than we have. Don't you think we're entitled to know that? Don't you think, as a country that has always protected itself largely because of the 2 great oceans around it, It's the reason we were immune from attack until September 11. We weren't attacked in World War II the way Europe was, the way England was. Hard to come and get us. Could be one of the reasons we won the Cold War, because it was much easier for us to bomb Russia than for Russia to bomb us. Because we had all those forward-leaning bases. Oh, by the way, you gave away them to China. Is it a coincidence that you gave it away? Not to China, but you gave it away even though it was 400 miles from China. You gave it to a terrorist country called Afghanistan, which they are now using very effectively to kill innocent people. I don't know if you're proud of yourself for that. I don't know how you live with yourself for that. But I do know that there may very well be a day in which a president of the United States curses you for having done that when and if we have to go to war with China. I sure would like to have a base 400 miles from China. I think our military would, because they're looking for one of them miles away.
Thanks for.
Yes, sir.
Thanks for joining us, America's Mayor Live. A very busy evening. Of course, last night we had a big audience. We plan to incorporate that more and more. We'll have a guest here later in the hour, Mayor. We have a guest follows politics closely, may have some questions for you, and maybe be able to give us some perspective I'll let her kind of describe where she falls on the political spectrum. I think our audience will really enjoy hearing from Ashley here. Lots of questions, Mayor. People, our chat rooms are very busy here on what we like to call the fastest hour on the internet. Mayor, how do you keep track of all the lies and misinformation said during the speech?
Well, I wrote them down. I mean, I just wrote one after another down. I have a whole. I put a bunch of them on a whiteboard right here. We'll do China again later, but let's go to domestic policy for a minute, okay? Let's go to let's see. Billionaires. That's just one of his favorite topics, billionaires. He hates billionaires because he isn't one. He is a millionaire, however, and he did it through corruption. I don't know. His friend Poroshenko became a billionaire through bribery. Guess had a Ukrainian official, he'd have been a billionaire. Probably be an oligarch if he was a Ukrainian official.
He's definitely a multimillionaire.
He is a multimillionaire.
The guy's a lifelong public servant, and somehow he's a multimillionaire.
Oh, yeah. Let's guess how he did it. So billionaires, he says billionaires, they don't pay their fair share. Those bad billionaires. Oh, they're bad. They're really bad people. He said worse things about those bad billionaires than the Chinese. He did. As far as Joe was concerned last night, you'd rather be Chinese than a billionaire. Chinese communist. They only pay 8% of the tax. Now, that's as true as the last statement, that he protected us. You know why? They don't only pay 8% of the tax. They actually pay, if you check his statement, they don't do Pinocchios they don't do Pinocchios in Post anymore because they're a rotten, crooked, dishonest newspaper. And because they'd have to point out every day that this man lies to the point of absurdity, to the point of an illness, really. If he didn't have other illnesses, he would have the illness liar. So the IRS actually does compute roughly what billionaires pay. You know, it's the Democrat IRS that he wants to expand by 80,000 so they can come after you if you're a Republican. That would be the Democratic squad of the IRS, similar to the incorporated state police called the FBI and the state prosecutors called the Justice Department. Sorry. They no longer have any independence. So the IRS says 25.6%, that the billionaires pay 25.6%. Well, that's quite a bit more than 8. A lie. You know how he computes this? You might be interested. I'm sure he didn't compute it. Somebody gave it to him, and he would not understand the explanation. But here's the explanation. That is if which is a big word. You know that famous expression, if my aunt or if my uncle had, can't say it now, and probably it would be gender offensive if I did. But the if is big here. Billionaires would pay only 8% if you include their gain from unrealized investments. What does that mean? Simple. If I buy a stock for $10,000 in 2022, and I'm about to make out my tax return, and that $10,000 stock in 2022 went up to 22,000, I would have to pay a tax on $2,000 on an unrealized capital gain. Now, when do I pay the tax? Now, I pay the tax when I sell the stock. So if I sold the stock in 2022 and I made a $2,000 profit, I pay a capital gains tax on it. If I don't sell it, I don't. But he's saying that if you calculate all those unrealized profits, they pay only 8% of the tax because they don't pay tax. Again, we're going to go back to logic, something that eludes Biden and Democrat liars. If you didn't realize it, why would you pay it? You don't have it. It's in the bank. It's in a stock. You may never have it. Stock may go down to zero and you'll have nothing. It would make the tax system totally ridiculous. You know how much more accounting work would have to be done to do these and what would you determine the value of it? So a stock could be $20,000 at the beginning of the year. That's what you bought it at. Could go up to 30,000. It could go down to 18,000. It could go back to 22,000. It could go to 14,000. It could go to, and by the end of the year, it could be 22,000. Do you wait to December? You wait for New Year's Eve? Is that what you do? So this is a total lie to compute this because it isn't income. It's potential income. You don't pay tax on potential income. It'd be ridiculous. Now you look at what they really pay tax on. Real 25.6%. But here's the more salient feature when he says, tax, they don't pay their fish, yeah. They don't pay their fish, yeah. They don't pay their fair share. Wonder if he paid his fair share on all his bribery income from Russia, from China. Notice he picks really nice countries. From crooks and organized criminals. Wonder how much he whacked up with Whitey Bulge's nephew, one of the biggest organized criminals in the United States at the time. Paid taxes on all that money, all that bribe money that his scummy little brothers were bringing in for him. Now, the top 1% pay 42.3% of all federal taxes. That's pretty much absurd, isn't it? 1% of the population pays almost half the tax, and they don't pay their fair share. Now, you don't have to like billionaires. You can be one of these people who's pathetically jealous of everyone, and because someone is a billionaire, you don't like them. Because they're a billionaire, and you want to say something stupid like, the only way you could become a billionaire is by cheating. A lot of people cheat and they don't become billionaires. In fact, a lot more people cheat and don't become billionaires than people who cheat and become billionaires. The number of people who cheat or who are billionaires is the same as the number of people who cheat in general. It's a human characteristic. It's not a characteristic of the rich or the poor. So that's another stupid displaying, I wouldn't say mental illness, but weakness of character when you hate billionaires. I hate all billionaires. I hate all billionaires. You're just a jealous, underperforming, underachieving person with very low self-worth. That's what. But he has no self-worth. Why would he? He was left back in the third grade. They probably used to make fun of him, right? Stupid little Joe. He's the dumbest guy in class, which is why he lied about being first in his class when he was almost last. So 1% pays 42.3 thing. The bottom half in income pay only 2.3% of the tax. So who paying the taxes in this country? People who are working. If you just limited this election to the people who are working, Trump would have won by about 90%. Pay the taxes. 50% only pay 2.3% of the taxes. 1% pay 42% of the taxes. That leaves 44% to be exact, left. And that's paid by all of us. So another lie, another bad economics, which is one of the reasons why we're in such terrible, terrible problem. He reduced the deficit to the highest level ever, and then he reduced it to the second highest level ever, which is higher than it was when Trump was president. Now, is that a lie? I would say this one we're going to give him a break. It's not a straight out lie. It's a deceptive statement made by a person of no character. He offered no plan for inflation, none. We're just going to sit here and watch it go up. It's the experts say it's going to go up again this year about 9%. It's right now at 6.5. When Trump left, it was 1.4. He claims that Trump left him with, oh, poor Joe. Did you know that when he became president, did you know this? When he became president, when poor little Joe became president, the country's economy was reeling. It was reeling. It was. And, if I say so, what movie is that a paraphrase from? I'm going to have you think about that, Ted, and we may even offer a prize if they get it. If I say it's so, it should be so. So I'm going to say, says Biden, was reeling economically when I became president. Let's listen to the challenge one say that.
2 years ago, the economy was reeling. I stand here tonight after we've created, with the help of many people in this room, 12 million new jobs, more than any president's created in 4 years, because of you all, because of the American people.
No, the reason you have 12 million more jobs is the pandemic was over and the people went back to work. You didn't create them, Joe. And we've lost 10 million jobs permanently. Those are the people staying home, taking your bribe to be a communist. They're taking your bribe to make more money staying home than working, and you're bribing them to become communists.
Thanks for joining us.
Oh, by the way, the economy was reeling. Came out, the economy was in terrible condition. Almost not as bad as the Depression, but, something like that. We had a very, very capable president at the time who had the economy in the best shape in 50 years when the pandemic started. So he pretty quickly got it straightened out. By the time you took over, our unbelievably high pace of 20% was predicted not to grow for about 4 or 5 months until you came in. But we had a president then. And we not only had a president, we had one of our better presidents, if not one of our best. And he had it at 20% when you came in, and you destroyed it. You destroyed energy independence, and with doing that, you knocked the hell out of the economy. You imposed regulations, destroyed industries. You spent more money in a short period of time than any American president in history. And in the worst inflation we had been in 50 years, and you ruined an economy that was coming back like gangbusters because of one of three reasons. You're stupid, as Gates said, profoundly stupid. You never make the right decision. 2, you have a serious dementia, Alzheimer's, one or the other. Or number 3, you're a communist. Okay? A normal person that doesn't have one of those three things doesn't It doesn't take a country that has spent 20 years trying to be energy independent and turn it around in a month, and knowing that will ruin its economy. Yeah, the price of gasoline, you say you brought it down. That's the same thing you did with the deficit, but you brought it up to levels we haven't seen since the Jimmy Carter cars online. And now you've brought it down, but you're still up way over Trump. And people are still unable to afford their meals. And they don't realize any of the wage increases you claim because it's eaten up by inflation. Parents, did you, Joe? Because you sold them out to the Communist Teachers Union, didn't you? So the Communist Teachers Union can not teach them, but indoctrinate them into being communists and little followers of little Bidenistas or Obameristas or whatever the hell they are. They're going to learn that America was founded just for the purpose of slavery, that America founded slavery. They're going to learn the non-history that the New York Times teaches, which is a pack of lies. There's a movie out now. Disney has a movie out now on Hulu in which they claim that the Revolutionary War was fought for slavery. It's based on nothing. Based on nothing. Thomas Jefferson actually wrote out all the reasons why we were fighting the revolution against George III, didn't he? And you all hate Thomas Jefferson, don't you? All you people who hate America. And Thomas Jefferson was a mean, terrible, horrible slaveholder. If we had fought it over slavery, wouldn't it have written down? It wouldn't have been afraid to write it down. According to, he's so bad, you got to take a statue out of the city council chambers. The one I used to go look at, anytime I could endure going into the Democratic City Council. It was the nicest thing in the council, except for Peter Vallone. He would have, along with their having writs of attainder. Writs of attainder, why we have the Fourth Amendment. It's like what you did to me when you smashed into my house for no reason, or my law office, like you did what the British troops did. That's one of the reasons we fought the Revolutionary War. It's one of the reasons we have a Fourth Amendment to the Constitution of the United States, specifically there because of the writs of attainder. They taxed us without representation, which means they levied enormous taxes, confiscatory taxes on us. They didn't let us pass our own laws or follow them. There's not a single dispute between the United States and the colonies, or the colonies and George over slavery. And George was not exactly a beneficent man. I mean, George had other colonies that had slavery that went on well after the United States left England. Half this country didn't want slavery. The North, even at the time of the Revolution, was filled with abolitionists. John Adams was an abolitionist. Benjamin Franklin was an abolitionist. People, sectional thing. Now, were they against slavery? Some of the most damning words about slavery were written by Thomas Jefferson, who saw the contradiction of a country based on principles of equality that had slavery, and he dreaded what God for our hypocrisy. Sounds like a man who's struggling with it rather than some kind of a horrible slave owner. You know who the horrible slave owners were? People who started your political party called the Democrat Party. The Democrat Party had more to do with slavery than any institution in America, which is why you should change its name.
Abe Lincoln, was he the first Republican president?
He was the first Republican president. That's correct.
Founder of the Republican Party.
Correct.
The man who
Much
freed
better.
the slaves.
And who was opposed by the Democrats, who was killed by a Democrat.
So maybe it's now a good time to remind folks of one of your one of the causes.
PatriotMobile.com.
Why not talk about Patriot Mobile? But I also wanted to remind folks of a cause you're leading to get rid of the name, the offensive
Oh,
name.
yes. Well, let's do Patriot Mobile first. We'll handle all of your needs for internet and for Wi-Fi and for everything you need. And you call them up, go to patriotmobile.com/Rudy. They are very sensitive to the fact that we're in inflation. They'll give you a good price. You get getting now. They'll replicate it, except they're a Christian conservative. They're on our side. And we're going to start doing much more of that. We're going to start doing much more of singling out the companies that are on our side and funding them. Is first of all, I think we're going to get more honest service because I think we tend to be a lot more honest than they are. And number two, we're going to be helping our cause. So you can do that with patriotmobile.com, like you can do with My Pillows. Go to mypillows.com/Rudy. See the prices you get. They'll be terrific. And you'll be doing something good. You'll be taking these that now are owned by China, not mentioned at all by Biden. But with regard to parents, parents are at war right now against the teachers union, against the education infiltrated industry. Parents are, under by Biden's crooked attorney general. Where's the president standing up for parents and the rights of parents? Where's the president at a time in which minor children are being mutilated? They're being mutilated without their parents knowing about it. Where's the president on that? The president Catholic. Where is he? Where states are passing laws that you can have an abortion at 7 months, at 8 months, and 9 months. It's one thing at 1 month and 2 months and 3 months. I don't know. That's up to you. I mean, I think it's wrong, but I don't. There's no doubt about 7 months and 8 months and 9 months. But he, like Pelosi, they're really good Catholics, but they don't mind murdering 7, 8, and 9 month babies. Then we got good old China. China, who wants to surpass us by 2048. The balloon, which was hanging right over you could see the balloon right up there, right on the top. He ignored it completely, right? What did he say? He said that stupid thing about how he protected us, which we've already ripped apart, right? He failed to tell us, not only do they have a bigger Navy than us, but within the last couple of days, they now have more land-based missiles than we do. It used to be a day in which our president used to tell us things like that. And you know what it led to? Effort on our part to surpass them. But nowadays, when we have a president that's compromised by China, it just leads to, we don't tell the American people. Just like, Ted, let me ask you a question. Do you think we had ever found out about that balloon, the Chinese intelligence balloon, if it hadn't been leaked?
Absolutely not.
Do you think we would have found out about all the top secret documents he stole if the CBS didn't leak it?
Only if President Trump were reelected in 2024 and people like Mayor Rudy Giuliani play a critical role in the new government in ensuring that the truth, transparency, and the protection of democracy were prioritized rather than the enrichment of the people currently in charge. They put themselves over the country, and it's disturbing.
You know that the Attorney General's son-in-law is the head of a company that tries to convince children they should change their gender. I don't know if he gets into the mutilation part, but he certainly gets into the hormone parts. So, I mean, doesn't it make sense that he kind of propagates things like, let's treat them like organized.
It's disgusting. It's absolutely wrong. Welcome to America's Mayor Live. We are moving right along here. We have a very special guest we want to introduce you here shortly. We're making some room. In the meantime, please comment below who you are and your name. And we'd love to hear from you on a very busy Wednesday night.
An extraordinarily busy Wednesday night. So So here's a little sum up. Biden and Sanders fill the end up. It's important to know that. Biden has spent the last 2 years making us a socialist economy, which is witnessed by the fact that more people didn't pay taxes than did pay taxes last year. So people are working to not working. There are less people working than there are people not working in many situations. Or more importantly, there are less people paying taxes than people paying taxes. So you're taking care of the ones that aren't paying taxes. That's a redistribution of wealth. That's a socialist country. It also has aspects of authoritarianism, communism, and it's all aimed toward a one world government. Whereas Sarah Huckabee Sanders outlined a conservative lifestyle and political philosophy based on largely libertarian principles, government-controlled economy, and a constitutional republic. So we basically we could summarize Biden in the words of Abraham Lincoln as government of the government, whereas we can summarize Sanders as government of the people. That's your Democrat Party today. The slave party has become the government party. Party again, if you put them in real control and you let people like the idiot in California have higher office. Why would anybody vote for a governor in a state where people are leaving like flies? Have you figured that out, Ted? Or you don't think?
It's quite something.
Ashley, would you like to join us?
I'm just using your notes here for reference. If you don't mind.
You can use my note if you want your opinion on the State of the Union speech, but I just would like Ted.
Okay. I think I need a microphone.
Oh no, I have one right here.
Oh, okay. You have an extra.
I do.
Awesome. Thank you.
And that microphone is one you have to get very close to. So come a little closer.
Okay.
There you go.
There we go.
Put your face pretty much
Right there?
No, not right there. Perfect. Okay.
Okay. So, hey everyone, I'm Ashley.
Why don't you give us a 1 minute background, maybe 40 seconds on who you are?
Oh, jeez. Don't put me on the spot like that, Ted. So I'm Ashley. I'm a psychology graduate student. And that's like, I'm just going to stop there. But I will say that like I've lived in California and I have a lot of liberal friends.
Because of California?
Well, yeah, there is a lot of pressure to be a liberal if you live in an area like that. And like, to be honest, my views are more libertarian, like you had mentioned about the Libertarian Party. And I didn't feel comfortable speaking out against my views because, you know, like these liberals, like they only accept you if you agree with them. Like if you disagree with them, then they will cut you off. They will yell at you, like curse at you. Like, so I felt very uncomfortable expressing some of my libertarian, not even Republican views, just libertarian views. And, you know, like, so, but what I wanted to say is that I was talking to one of my liberal friends about the speech, and I think my friend asked me, like, what did you think of the speech? And I said, like, I think it was a mess. What did you think? And then my friend's like, oh, it was great. And I'm like, what part of it was great? Like an all-time high, like the border is a mess. Like there's all this stuff going on. And you're saying that the speech was great? Like what planet are you living on?
People are dying of fentanyl in numbers unheard of, all because he lets it come in. And so what did she cite a particular, it was great, or was it his general sort of, he wasn't too badly demented last night?
It's really hard to say with these people because, like, to be honest, I don't think anyone is really like a fan of him. But, you know, so we need to just keep him in there.
And is that her view?
Yes.
And then when
that's a lot of people's views.
Well, if their view is, well, he's just better than Trump, what do they get so angry about? What makes them so passionate and so angry? They are mean and horrible. I mean, this doesn't happen to me as much as I thought. Ted has been there a few times when people will just yell at me that I'm gonna be condemned to hell. You used to be a good person and now you're a devil. all because of my support of Trump.
That's terrible.
I mean, first of all, I was his lawyer. People are entitled to a defense. I mean, the worst criminals in the world get a defense. Even Rex out there agrees.
That's right. And oftentimes, Mayor, when first of all, New York, no matter what they look like, what their background may be, where part of the city, have nothing but amazing things to say to the mayor. They really do. They beg him to come back. They say, "Oh, Mayor, we want you back. We need you back."
We get a couple.
But we get a couple back. I know. I
couple.
needed to qualify that before going into what I'm about to go into. But when you hear it from them, these people, there is clearly to an individual, there's something wrong with that individual. There's something bothering them. Oftentimes, I feel like it has nothing to do with the mayor, but they've chosen to, that it's their way of expressing themselves, whether it's because they've been influenced by the fake news, but really I often leave the interaction and I'll even praying for you, right? These people, the way they go after the mayor and they never met the guy, they don't know anything about the guy other than what they've heard on TV. And just the way they will say that, like, you're condemned to hell, right? Or how could you do that, right? And it's like we just kicked their dog or something.
Your microphone. I wonder where they thought they got the authority to condemn you to hell.
Like,
are they Satanists? Maybe.
I just want to make a comment here. Like, this is a party that preaches quote unquote inclusivity, peace, love, happiness, yet they scream at people and call them names who they don't even know. So they're total hypocrites.
Yes. It comes off as so personal. It's like, what did you do, Mayor? Did you kick his dog or something? Right? It's really that person. And it's like,
I happen to love dogs, by the way. I don't kick dogs. Let's not have a problem here.
Yeah, we don't want to
have one of the
questions.
Questions.
What did Mayor Giuliani recently
kick anyone to be a communist, not a dog? And I haven't kicked a communist just so it was just a joke. Ha 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 ha.
We're gonna get a letter from Mr. Lowell.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I got a letter from Mr. Lowell to preserve my documents. You're damn right I'll preserve my documents. They show that your client committed about 100 crimes, jackass.
So thanks for joining us. While we have our guest here, Ashley, I would like to know from the audience, if you have questions for Ashley, a young female, we don't play this identity thing, but we're going to do it for a second. A young female, spent time in Massachusetts, California.
Just for extra information, yes, I've lived in multiple states. I've lived in Massachusetts,
some of those liberal parts of the country,
California. Ooh. And also I've lived in Alabama for 5 years, one of the most conservative parts of the country. So I have experience from all sides and talking with all different types of people. So that's also what formed parts of my views.
Are the academic institutions the same or roughly the same? Let's say Massachusetts and California, and then Alabama. I'm talking about the academic institution, not the people.
Well, when I first started at Hofstra, on Long Island, I had a sociology professor who was an open socialist. This was in 2006 when it wasn't even a big thing.
Before, just about when Bernie Sanders first emerged.
She was openly socialist, and she would tell her view, this is the best way ever. Sweden is my favorite country. And it's so the class was taught based on her personal views, and it was geared towards socialism, even though it was not meant to be. And what
was the subject? I'm sorry.
It was a sociology class, but that include all theories, not just, socialist or communist theories.
So, and now if you, did the course give you the opportunity to disagree with her? I mean,
no, because all of the assignments that we had were based on the books that we had to read, which were socialist books. So
so you weren't entitled to another viewpoint? Absolutely
not.
No, you were not exposed to another viewpoint.
No.
If you brought up the viewpoint, what would she do? Would she be angry, or would she entertain it?
Even, thought of doing that because we all wanted to get A's. So,
but so you went to college about the same time my son did. And he was at Duke, and he was at Duke the first year when the scandal took place, with the 4 turned out to be perfectly innocent, one of whom was a friend of his and someone I knew. But he went to Duke in part because it was a more conservative school than some of the others he was considering, and he was on the golf team. So, but he found a fair number of outrageously left-wing, dictatorial, authoritarian professors who didn't allow you and would grade you based on whether, I don't know if they had the 1619 program then, but I mean, you had to believe things like America invented slavery. Well, I don't know. It was around during Egypt. Anybody that watches 10 Commandments knows that slavery was around during Egypt. I'm not assuming that these people read, by the way. I think they watch. It's kind of like Being There. Do you know the movie Being There with Peter Sellers?
Mm.
Okay, well, the movie Being There is a good preparation for Joe. It's a good preparation for Joe.
Okay, and then I want to compare that to my experience in Alabama. So I never took courses there. I was down there working, doing concert and event work, and I found that the people there, they're very conservative, but they're also very accepting of other views, because I would say to them certain viewpoints, and even though they didn't agree with me, they would be like, well, I don't agree with you, but we can still be friends. And they would never like scream at me. Just their whole demeanor is the liberals. And
I don't find,
and I never had to worry about speaking my mind in front of my conservative Alabama friends, whereas my liberal California friends and my liberal New York friends, I have to be so careful what I say, or else they'll cut me off and they'll not be friends with me anymore.
And how,
it's freaking crazy.
And how do you explain that? Either of you, a very good point by Ashley. Look, I have friends, or we're around people who they love Obama, or even this guy, Joe Biden. But I don't get shooken up, right? I don't like, oh my gosh, I got to run away or complain to HR or something. But that's what they do. If especially Trump, but even how do we explain that? Do you have any ideas on why that might be, Ashley?
Well, like why they don't react that way? Because I don't want to offend anyone, but maybe because they have more common sense.
Oh, common sense.
I don't want to offend anyone, but I'm sorry. That's probably one of the bottom lines.
I think she's got a point. I make this point a lot. The liberal viewpoint now, today, not the liberal viewpoint of 30 years ago, but the liberal viewpoint today is an inherently unrealistic, childish, naive view of the world that will lead you to unrealistic, childish views and emotions. Like to think that you could do all the things that Biden said yesterday, and it's not going to have an effect on the economy. That if you add he was proposing something like another 4 or 5 trillion in spending. If we were to do that now, we would crush the American economy. We would crush it. The inflation would go up to 12, 15%. The American people would be toward not only a recession, but a depression. I think money is made on trees or printed in a machine. They don't realize it has to be earned in order to have value. So it leads them very, very easily to the Marxist unrealistic philosophy that everybody can have equal amounts, but you might work, I might not, but we get the same thing.
That's not fair.
No, you wouldn't be too happy about that, right? If you were living in your neighborhood, you're the one working, and everybody else in the neighborhood takes off, and they're basically feeding off you. That's the socialist communist viewpoint. That's the socialist communist viewpoint. So what did you think of his delivery, of the way in which he spoke? It seemed to me like he was a little more coherent than usual.
Yeah, but just so he has still had that look where he was kind of in a daze.
Yeah, he did a lot of he did a lot of stupid things, like he referred to Schumer as the majority leader. he fumbled about 40 times in reading. Remember, he's reading. He's not doing any of this from what he doesn't. Because, well, with the first thing that goes with Alzheimer's and dementia is short-term memory, which is the reason he can't remember Secretary Austin's name. For some reason, that one kills him. He can't remember Austin's name. The other day, he couldn't remember his Secretary of Defense. He kept fumbling. Secretary of the Military. No, Joe, Secretary of Defense. But I have studied dementia very, very minutely for 2.5, 3 years because of him. And he displays that short-term memory loss all the time. All the time. I mean, in the middle of a sentence, he'll often go off in another direction if he's not reading. That's why they have to have him read. Notice he slavishly read last night. His eyes were on that.
But you know they've told him, you're staying up there, Joe, for an hour and 20 minutes, because that's what we want this narrative to be after tonight. They told him, you're for the whole thing.
Yeah, yeah.
They pumped him up with something.
Yeah, maybe they put him like in a machine the night before. You know, like those movies you see,
Yeah,
they put him in a machine, an ice machine, and they fed in all kinds of things, and he came out alive. But now tonight he's back in the machine again, be revived.
Thanks for joining us. This is the fastest hour on the internet, and we have just 8 minutes left. The comment sections across social media are on fire this evening.
We have any penalty time?
Last night we had a lot of stoppage time. Last night we stayed on for quite some time. Ashley, if you're wondering, so are you familiar?
Somewhat.
Are you familiar with how the overtime rules work in soccer as opposed to most American sports?
No, I'm not. Sorry.
They have a running clock, right? The game's over. The 90 minutes, soccer games are 90 minutes.
Okay.
And then at the end of the 90 minutes, they put up an extra clock and then just run. And only the ref knows how much extra.
You could have 7 minutes and 22
That's
seconds.
their overtime.
You could have 8 minutes and 13. I don't know. I got someone to try to explain it to me.
An Englishman.
Yeah, Tim, right?
Oh, no, Tim is Australian. We had Sam from London.
Yeah, he couldn't explain it.
He couldn't explain it. He couldn't explain it.
A Biden explanation.
But he also took issue with the food in New York, so I'm not sure how much we can listen to that guy.
When a guy from England can take issue with the food in New York, he does not have.
There's something going on.
He doesn't have culinary taste. Let's put it that way. He's not he's a Greek. He's not an Epicurean.
I'm not sure we'll see Sam anymore on the podcast. We're kidding. Sam is a friend, but you don't come on this podcast.
You want another line from The Godfather? You're not going to hear from Sam no more. Not going to hear from Paulie anymore. That's when Clemenza put Paulie with the fishes.
Oh, that's right. That's right. I'm thinking there are so many scenes in the first Godfather where the visual didn't make it to
when the fish shows up.
Yes.
To show.
And they knew.
Yeah.
Wow. So as we wind down here, we have a very special guest with us, Ashley, from right here in Florida. She spent time in Massachusetts and California. So imagine that, Mayor, going from Massachusetts, California, to the free state of Florida.
And Alabama.
Oh, we forgot Alabama.
So I have experience with people from all walks of life and all different political viewpoints.
Roll Tide or War Eagle?
Roll Tide, duh.
That's right. Alabama. Mayor, I think New York City maybe is of Alabama.
You mean politically?
Politically or in a lot of ways?
In a lot of ways. I can definitely say that. Like Alabama does not tolerate any riffraff.
But I bet you the mayor has
in terms of
high approval ratings in the state of
everything.
Alabama.
I do.
Oh yeah.
Which is amazing. Right?
I do.
What does that say about this? How dynamic is our mayor of New York City, who probably has higher approval ratings in the state of Alabama
than in
most
Manhattan?
Alabama politicians?
I sure do. Than in Manhattan? Absolutely.
And in Manhattan.
Yeah.
And in Manhattan.
I mean,
what does that say?
It says that the people, well, here's the thing to say. The people of New York are now experiencing a rejuvenation of the crime wave and of the crime problems that I and then Bloomberg did away with. It shows that the people of New York reflexively, with a Pavlovian response, vote Democrat. It's like Chicago. 50 years they have voted for Democrats. They're having an election right now. The city, a weekend can be 10 murders, 15 murders.
Oh, wow.
20 murders.
Yeah. When I was there, after you clean up all that crime. Like there was none of that going on when I was at Hofstra, and like you could go out safely. Like I could walk alone at night, and I felt safe, in the early 2000s. And thanks to you and your efforts. So thank you for that.
Well, you're welcome. And back 10 years earlier, you would not have been able to do that.
That's insane.
And now it's not quite where it was 10 years earlier, but it's moved. And it's because they vote reflexively Democrat. They selected a Democrat mayor, and the Democrat mayor brought them increased crime. Just like in Chicago, they keep voting for Democrats, and the people get killed. And the real victims of this in terms of murder are black people. 80% of the people killed in Chicago are black. 75% in New York are black.
Like
they're getting their young people slaughtered, and I'm standing up for them, and other people are, but they're not.
Like, no offense to any Democrat city, but like anytime that a Democrat comes into power and starts to run a city, it goes downhill. And I'm really sorry to say, but like I've seen it happen with Los Angeles, I've seen it happen with New York, but like you don't see that in Alabama. You don't see like Birmingham or like Huntsville, Mobile, any of the major cities having these like really bad crime problems, the homelessness crisis, people, shooting up fentanyl. Like, you don't see any of that like going around like on the streets like you do in the liberal cities.
For those of us who haven't spent a lot of time in a state like Alabama, a lot of our viewers.
I spent 5 years there.
Where? Which part of Alabama? You mentioned
in Huntsville and
you know both. So you both know.
Huntsville is in northern Alabama.
And Mobile's near the water.
Why
exactly along the Gulf Coast?
I once I went with the governor to campaign there, and I drew like a standing room only crowd. And
of course,
he was shocked that I was so well known there. This was way
back. Love you there. Are you kidding?
This was back in 2007.
You should run for office there. You would easily win.
Well, we may just move, and I will not pretend that I have an accent like Hillary. Hillary does. She pretends she has a black.
Yeah, she had a southern accent down there. Then she had hot sauce in her. Literally, I think she had hot sauce in her bag for when she was down in the
pants.
In her bag.
Oh, in a bag. Oh,
we're not going. So my question is, in nonpartisan political terms, why don't they have some of the same issues you see in a lot of in some northern cities?
Because they don't tolerate any riffraff. Like, if something goes down, like if you call the cops, they'll actually come. Whereas in California, from what I've heard, like the cops will possibly show up maybe half the time when you call them. So it's like,
demoralized. That happens when a police department is demoralized.
Like, I've never heard it. Like how do you call a cop and then the cop doesn't show up? Like,
and if he does show up, Ashley, the person's released in 6 hours. So when that happens, policing can be done enthusiastically. It can be done average, or it can be done in a lazy way. And the more, so for example, if you're just going to arrest in 30 hours or 20 hours,
then there's no point.
Yeah. Or every arrest becomes a complaint. And now it shouldn't happen. A cop shouldn't do that, but cops are human. And they not easily, but they can become demoralized. The New York City Police Department is completely demoralized. Ted can tell you how many come up to me and whisper to me, "I wish you were back. It's terrible. Adams is worse." Adams was a cop like them, so I think they expected something more than they're getting, which is a little bit better in some ways. Like, shootings are down, murder is down, but property crime's way up. And subway crime was way up. It just took a little dip down, but toll beating is way up. So you end up car theft is ridiculous. Car theft, just cars get 30, 40 cars are stolen.
That sounds like I heard that in San Francisco, people are like leaving all of their like windows down and trunks open because like cars get broken into like every single night. So it's like, if you show that you have nothing in your car, then like, no one will come.
That and so something like crime
literally
issues in
going
the subway.
on.
Yeah, but
because I have friends there who told me.
But who does this impact the most? Subway crime. Who does it impact the most? working people who are getting on the train to try and contribute back to society, right? And they have to deal with this. And here are these Democrat politicians who constantly preach to us about Republicans don't care about the working man. Republicans are only out for the rich. Meanwhile, they're the ones instituting policies that hurt working people and people that ride the subway because, you know, they can't ride an Uber every day. It's absolutely
correct.
disgusting, right, Mayor?
Absolutely correct.
Oh, and like I believe that it's out of San Francisco. There was like a homeless encampment by a school, and they were calling on the city to remove it, but they wouldn't act. And it's like, that's really dangerous to have a homeless encampment next to a school. So it's like they clearly don't care. You have a homeless encampment next to a school where children go every day.
It's amazing that the people there didn't rise up against it. Now, in New York, at least a year or so, 2 years ago,
they tried, but the city wasn't doing was not doing anything about it.
They were able to get one removed. I wonder if it would happen now. I wonder if we haven't lost even that. New York City is not as bad as San Francisco. It's headed there. It's headed to where
scary.
It's headed to where San Francisco is. Los Angeles is almost there. Los Angeles is almost where San Francisco.
Where in California were you, actually?
I spent most of my time in Los Angeles, but I also spent time in Sacramento and San Francisco.
Wow. So you've seen it up close, Democrat policies and then Republican policies in Alabama and here in Florida. So you really do have a good
were
perspective.
You in San Jose at all?
No, sir.
Okay. We're on the air every day in San Jose.
And mine for Ashley from Florida. And we are now officially in stoppage time. Wow, it's the fastest hour on the internet, as we like to say.
Well, we had a wonderful time, Ashley. You're invited back anytime you want.
Thank you so much, Mayor. That's really nice.
You have a very interesting point of view, and
thank you.
And you express yourself really well. And Ted, who does a great job.
Well, that alone,
which Ted
has
does
earned her a spot.
Ted does a great job. I must say, and now that he has his new Christmas tree board, he's doing much better. Show him your Christmas tree board.
Let's see if we can do that.
Turn that around.
You got to be very careful with that. Don't.
If we sign off,
move the camera.
Oh,
I'll move the camera. You leave that there. Okay. That's good. That's good. Leave it there. And I'll move the camera here, and we're going to show the board. Mayor, why don't you give us a closing message as we show the board?
While Ted is moving, I will explain it. We'll watch the rollout of this, and we'll make sure that none of this happens. I mean, we'll work with you to make sure that you're aware of every time he attempts to implement this socialist communist philosophy, because we don't have room anymore for this things. He's broken us really in terms of the amount of money that he spent. We are perilously in danger of inflation going up even higher than where it is right now. And we're perilously close to a recession. And that would hurt the people who work, who pay the bills, who make this country, what it is. Second, we're ending up with, police shootings in terms of the police getting shot that are record levels. The police shooting someone is people shooting the police, unfortunately, is becoming record levels. And then people shooting each other is dramatically high. Police shootings are an insignificant number compared to, unfortunately, black people shooting other black people. You want to save black children, you save them from other black youngsters who are killing them. That's what happens in Chicago every weekend. 10 murders, 8 of them are black on black. And Black Lives Matter doesn't give a damn, nor do the politicians. You never hear them talk about it. Never hear them talk about it or do anything about it. Is there a program for ending that? No. Is there a program for exploiting anytime a police officer makes a mistake? Yeah, millions are donated to that. And nothing is donated to saving the 700, 800 black children who are killed every year in Chicago. Something very wrong with that. Very, very wrong. Among other things, it's immoral. So we'll be back tomorrow night We'll have a little more on the, not so much the State of the Union. We'll talk a little about that, but how it's rolling out and how we can prevent a destruction of our way of life.
And we may just tomorrow evening, so stay tuned for that.
Okay.
And some special guests. So we'll see you again tomorrow at 8. Mayor, why don't you send everybody off?
Well, first of all, I want you to go to my podcast. I spent a lot of time on it today. So reward me and go get it at rudygiuliani.com. If you go subscribe and listen to it, I'll do more of them. And I think you'll find this very instructive. It goes into more detail on the budget, not on the budget. Well, it does weave in the budget, but we talk about the State of the Union speech, and I would say the my presentation and all the others that you're going to get is I show you the connection to communism. This is not a group of isolated principles that coincidentally all seem to come from Karl Marx. They don't coincidentally come from Karl Marx and Frederick Engels and Trotsky and Mao and the contemporary and 20th century communists. The best example being the elimination of God, the desecration of the heroes of your country, the rewriting of American history, the demonization of parents. Black Lives Matter and the Communist Party want to see children without parents to go to a state school starting at 2 years old. That's why he wants to increase education for children at 2 and 3 and 4. He and Jill love that. That's Hitler loved it too.
He wants to start brainwashing them sooner.
Yeah. Hitler and Stalin agreed on that. You got to start doing it about 2.
That's sick.
They're sick. Well, in fact, if you want a sick family, well, in any event, remember, I haven't reminded you in a while. I'm going to do it now. Tomorrow morning when you get up, why don't you say a little prayer, whether you believe in God or not? Because do the can't bet, which is if I believe in God, I'm going to go to heaven. If I don't believe in God, and there is a God, I'm going to go to hell. So you might as well believe in God, right? So say a little prayer and say, thank you, God, for making me an American. Okay? God bless America.